All right. Just want to welcome everyone today to our third session. We are so glad to have Dr. Rocky Wallace with us today on succession planning, building capacity while still on your watch. Rocky teaches in and helps develop the educator leadership program at Campbellsville University and has provided similar work for Asbury and Morehead State. He's also served at the Kentucky Department of Education as a consultant to principals and at KEDC as the Director of Instructional Support and Adult Education. He's written and co-written, edited, or co-edited 12 books on servant leadership and organizational health in school setting for Roman and Littlefield, and provides consulting on the topic for school organizations. And I've enjoyed reading Dr. Wallace's some of his books in our prep program for administration. So looking forward to hearing you today, Dr. Wallace.
Thank you, Mary, and welcome to everyone. We always enjoy EdCamp. This is a wonderful service that KDE provides for all of us. And my title today, we had some training on this in my doctorate program. I never really thought much about how important it is to practice succession planning, but when I was a principal at two different schools, I can tell you when I left, suddenly a lot of emotions go with that, and you're wondering, did I leave them in good shape? Will they shine and grow under the next leader, or have I left them sort of hanging out there? So I remember leaving Post-it notes in the mailboxes of my teachers and saying, don't forget this, don't forget that, don't forget you're over this club, don't forget to keep this project going. So I'm going to go over a few slides this morning just to remind all of us there is a way to have ongoing succession planning so that when you do leave work in an organization and transition to new work, you feel like I have a peace because I know I left my folks in good shape. And in education, as you well know, we have lots of opportunities from when we start our career to when we end our career to transition to new work, maybe more than just about any other organization that's out there. We have many opportunities to do good work and then move on to more good work, sometimes within the same district, sometimes outside the district, sometimes working on a regional or state level, sometimes in higher education. So succession planning and understanding how that works is certainly a big part of what we do as school leaders. Maybe all of you have read at least one book by John Maxwell, but he is the leadership guru. He's been studied a lot here in Kentucky over the years. A former pastor, felt led to go into leadership development. His corporate offices, I think, now are down in Atlanta. He's written dozens of books on leadership, and he talks so much in all of his books about core values. So you see all over to the left on this first slide how an iceberg works. Biggest majority of it's underneath the surface. And that's true in an organization. So much of the subculture that many people don't see, those of us inside the organization, we know, don't we, whether things are in good shape, whether the culture is healthy and trusting and strong, or whether it needs some work. So you, wherever you're at in your career as a school leader, same way with me, it's important to be always, to the very last day, working on continually improving on, are our core values being lived out in this organization? The best thing I can recommend until your last day, some of you may be getting ready to retire. Some of you may know that you're going to be moving to central office soon, or you may have already been approached about going to another district, an opportunity. Maybe you used to live there, so you know this summer you're going back home. You may be going to the regional co-op or to KDE as a consultant, whatever. Sometimes folks will sort of feel like it's okay to stop now because there's only 3 months to go or only 2 months to go. But what I've learned over the years is keep doing your best to build the organization as healthy and grow it as healthy as you can to your very last day. Sometimes leaders are insecure, and leaders will accidentally, maybe subconsciously, hold back talent that you're working with or that you're supervising. And I would strongly encourage you to understand the principle of I decrease so others can increase, and step aside in terms of feeling like you need to be the main boss in the building. Certainly everyone looks to you as their leader. So embrace that and be a leader of leaders. Develop your people. Best way to practice succession planning is to be developing your people so that the next person who follows you inherits a really good culture and people in the right seats on the bus and people plugged in where their greatest strengths are. That makes it so much easier for the person who succeeds you. I have a picture of my sister Debbie and me on the right. Debbie is a United Methodist Church bishop. There's only about 80 of them around the world, I think. The Methodist Church is a very large denomination, I think the third largest in the world. And I like to think that as Deb's older brother, I was helping her to develop down through the years. And she certainly has helped me to develop, been one of my biggest encouragers. So if we do that with our family, and probably all of you do, with siblings and other relatives and close friends, if we can take that philosophy and care for others enough to extend that to all of those that we work with, from the student teacher who's in just for this spring in your building to the person who is at the end of their career, if we can always be scouting for talent and growing that talent and reinforcing in people so that they have self-confidence to keep doing good work and to learn to do more good work. So succession planning, a lot of it is just embracing this philosophy of generative leadership. So we move from isolated. If you're a person who likes to mainly work in your office on your own, it would be a great idea in your last few months, or even if it's going to be 2 or 3 years before you move on, to really focus on, I want a healthy, relationship-driven community in this building. So that starts with you. The little things that you can do to build community, from celebrating a staff person's birthday after school to mingling with students in the lunchroom to visiting with teachers at lunch and other times being visible throughout the building. All kinds of strategies that we could share here on how to build stronger, trusting community in your building, going from a self-focus to teamwork, and modeling that for folks in your building who may be team leaders, but they are still too self-focused. They want to run the show too much and really don't give others on the team much of a chance to share their ideas and to be a part of the recommendations that team is making to the school council or whatever governance setup your organization has. So a constant focus on teamwork is going to do such a favor for the person who follows you in, because that's half the battle, isn't it? If you have effective teams across your building or across the organization doing the work, making smart recommendations, that takes care of so much of the structure and the organizational piece. So your organization can be a high flyer. Going from win-lose to win-win. I would suggest to mend your broken relationships before you leave. If someone, just by their personality and your personality, and you're wired differently, you have been bumping heads a lot during your tenure as their organizational leader, I would strongly suggest to mend those fences, make sure that person knows it's nothing personal, have a healthy relationship with them. When the person who follows you comes in, then that person doesn't have a crow to pick and doesn't go the very first day saying, I'm so glad to see you here. The last supervisor didn't like me, did not support me. You know, we don't have time for that in education, do we, folks? You all have such a stressful job every day. And probably the most stressful work in our society is to be in education right now. So modeling that we can agree to disagree agreeably, and we are bigger than having the internal feuds in our building and the junior high soap opera mindset that the students and parents notice almost immediately. So strongly recommend and build win-win relationships throughout the building. So if you do these first three, then 1 + 1 = much more than 2, because you will have a robust, growing culture, trusting culture, people enjoying where they work, people enjoying and students enjoying being there, and parents trusting your school. So that makes a big difference. And going from fixed thinking to growth thinking, all of that plays into being a person who really practices succession planning in a big way. So organizational details, I've mentioned organization, well-developed teams, well-developed master schedule. You're saying master schedule, that's the next person's job. The more you show your staff and listen to your staff on how to build a smarter master schedule every semester, because it's ongoing, isn't it? There are some changes that you can tweak right in the middle of the year if you dare to do it. Then the next person that comes in, already your brand is already on that master schedule, something that's really in the best interest of kids, that's fair to your staff. So don't leave the master schedule in disarray because you think this might be your last semester or your last summer. That just creates extra work for your staff and the new person when they come in. That doesn't mean the new person is not going to have some changes, just like you will if you go to another position. But it certainly helps to come in and realize this organization is already in good shape. Both of the schools that I served, Fallsburg School in Lawrence County, Kentucky, outside of Louisa, my home county, and Catlettsburg Elementary in Boyd County, where we moved when my dad became a full-time pastor. Those counties are next door to each other, so I have roots in both counties for most of my life. Both schools were in really solid shape when I went in as the principal. Both principals who were stepping on to other work, one going to the high school as a principal, the other going to central office to be over the special ed program, they left the schools in really solid shape. So they knew what succession planning means. They left it in a great place for me to come in and take my turn and keep things going strong and share some new ideas when it was appropriate. Well-developed management processes. I hope if this is your last semester in your current position, you don't stop doing safety drills and the fire drills, which are required. I just attended Ben Wilcox's session on school safety a few minutes ago, and more than ever, we need to stay on top of that, as you all well know. Don't leave your financials in disarray. Don't spend your money down to $1,000 when you've had a policy that we never go under 5,000 in our school general account, or we never go under 5,000 with our activity funds. Don't do that to the next person, because they're going to need them to call the superintendent and say, hey, can you help me out here? I don't know if we can pay our bills next month. So all of this is part of being a person who really cares for the school enough that you're setting the next person up for success. Clarity and agreed upon vision. Some of you think it's too late for that. We don't have that, and I'm retiring next summer. It's not too late. You have several faculty meetings and staff meetings between now and summer where you can zero in, practice clarity more than ever. So the whole building is on the same page in terms of your priorities, your goals, your core values, and your agreed upon vision. And if you feel like we've never had an agreed upon vision, give your staff an opportunity at this stage to share their ideas on that and to hear what each other's thinking, hear what you're really thinking. It's more than just putting this down in a CSIP, isn't it? The experts who write about organizational health, and if you've had me in my classes, you know we study that a lot in my classes. They constantly talk about clarity, clear communication, unified vision, over and over and over. That is mentioned as best practice if you really want to have a healthy organization. So in your last year or two or last few months, don't let that fall through the cracks. Have more clarity, more articulation, more communication than ever. And the next person coming in will appreciate that, and your staff will appreciate that. They will feel like you're leaving them in such a good place. And do staff know their various leadership roles? And will you keep that going? Will you put people in their strength areas. You have an opportunity right now going into the second semester to plug some people in where you need their talents being used around the building or need them leading one of your teams. So don't wait for the next person to enjoy the fruits of smart management. Excuse me. If you know you need to make some adjustments, maybe your newest person on staff, you've worked with them for a semester and they're the best technology person in your building. And a lot of times that's the case with our younger employees because they've grown up with technology more than your veteran staff has. Well, then put that person on your technology team and turn them loose. If they know how to fix things around your building with technology, instead of waiting 3 or 4 days for your district person to come and take care of it, give them some extra time. However, you can work it out where they can do some troubleshooting for you. That's just an example of utilizing the talent you have in your building in smart ways. And again, the person following you will so appreciate that when you have done this fine tuning. Some of you are probably saying, we already do this. All of this we're already doing. Well, then you're already practicing succession planning. I'll share something with you. Some of you have probably done this, but if not, you will after you've been in your position for a few years. I would walk around the building realizing I'm probably going to make a move, a transition in a couple of years. And actually early on in my tenure as a principal at both of my schools, and then other jobs later in my career, I realized because of how I'm wired, about every 5 years, I need to be doing something new. So I was thinking a lot about, are they in good shape? Have I taken them as far as I need to take them? Are they prepared for the transition that's going to happen here in the next few months or the next couple of years? So you might say, so you practice succession planning from the day you're hired? Many times that's true. You really are practicing, how do I get this school in great shape before I've taken my turn and someone else gets to come in and take their turn? This is huge across the board for all of us. But if you can have your school modeling engaged learning, not just for students, but your faculty enjoying coming to school every day because they feel like my creative ideas are appreciated. And I can share these with my colleagues. I can do some innovative things in the classroom. And I'm not going to be scolded because it's not going just by the lesson plan for that week or not going just by what we are told we're supposed to do every week of all 36 weeks of the term. Point I'm making is, for all of us, engaged is the key. Whether you're reading a book over Christmas break that someone gave you for Christmas, if you're not engaged in that book, you're going to go to sleep on the couch, aren't you? Let's be honest with yourself. Well, it's that way in school every day for your students, and it's that way in school every day for your staff. Don't forget, your staff need to be engaged. Hey, I see Casey Dalton in here. Hey, Casey, good to see you, young man.
Hey, it's good to see you, Doc.
And fulfilling work. I cannot share with you near enough what it means to have been blessed to work in several great organizations where the work has always been fulfilling. So if you have a staff person or two who they can't wait to get out of the building every evening, or you can tell they are just watching the calendar until they retire, do all you can to support them and help them to understand we need you modeling that you're fulfilled in your work. And what can I do to help you be fulfilled in your work? Do we need to transfer you to another school? How can we help you? If you're unfulfilled in your work at this stage of your career, that's not a bad thing. It just means it's probably time for you to work on your resume, to start looking for opportunities and transition to something new where you will be excited again and enjoy going to work every day. So for staff and students, the key is fulfilling work, not drudgery, but fulfilling work. That will sustain your career. And if you love education in general across the board, you will probably find when you turn age 55, and right now you're thinking, I'm going to retire when I'm 55, you probably won't want to retire. You probably will at least want to part-time come in and still do this honored work that we've been called into. And this sort of, we've talked about this a lot already, build a community in and outside your building. Even if your building is the largest school in the state, you can still build community for those stakeholders outside the school and those in the school every day. Such a huge piece. If students feel disconnected, if your staff feels disconnected, if your parents feel disconnected, guess what? John Maxwell says, if you're leading but no one is following, you're only taking a walk. That's probably what's going on. You and other leaders in your building, if you don't have a sense of community, if folks are there because they're mandated to be there, boy, you have a nice goal to work on while you're still the leader in your building to ratchet that up and build more community. And there's no time for toxic culture. Students in my classes know I preach on this a lot. We are professional educators. The people who work for you and with you are professional educators. We are public officials. You may not be on the ballot this fall or next spring to be voted in as a person who is voted in by the constituents, but you are a public official. I told my superintendent class last night, as a school educator, teachers, and more so as a principal, and more so as district office staff, and even more so as a superintendent, you are known in your community. Hundreds of people know you. They see you at ball games. They see you at school. They know how to get a hold of you. They know how to get your email. They know how to contact you on Facebook if you're on Facebook. They're talking about you at Walmart and Foodland and at church. You may not think about it that way. I would encourage you not to think about it that way, because like an athletic coach, you know, you're being judged, you know, armchair quarterbacking is going on. So it's so important in your building to model, we have zero tolerance for toxic culture. If you have to have several small group meetings with staff, if you have to have training on how to have a healthier culture and how to have better relationships with colleagues, how to have a more trusting parent conferences, whatever it takes, be aggressive in helping your district and your school to embrace. We rise above the temptation to do little petty things and to not trust each other and to backbite and to create drama, because the kids take that home and the parents pick up on it, and then you have hurt your school culture more than you ever could realize. So succession planning, do what you can to get rid of that toxic culture. There's always going to be some, because we're all biased about something, one or a thing or another, and we're all human. But the more you can minimize it, the healthier your school will be. And also, less people will be transferring out every summer, and your successor will love that you have built a school, an organization where people want to be there and aren't looking to leave often. This is for you personally and for your school. There needs to be balance in our life, obviously. We can be so married to our work that we're not very good as a spouse or a parent. We can be so married to assessment scores that we don't even know a student's name, that we should have known the name, or we should have known his parents or her parents' name. Or you didn't know a staff person had a parent to pass away because you're so busy doing the required stuff that you don't create this balance around the building. So I encourage you, take time to have human activity back and forth. It doesn't take that long to plan extra activities so that folks realize we are socially strong too, not just academically strong. And in your personal life, maybe everyone on this Zoom is an administrator, or certainly a high-flying teacher, one of the leaders in your building. Make sure that you set aside at least every quarter, 4 times a year and longer in the summer, some time where you get away from your work and you and your family enjoy some respite and some type of sabbatical. Make sure that you don't find yourself later, like a superintendent friend of mine who now is in higher education said, I'm going to slow down. And he retired earlier than he meant to. And this is what he said. He said, I missed my kids growing up because he was so married to his job. And he said, I'm not going to miss my grandkids growing up. So a word to the wise, protect your balance in your life and model that for your school. It's critical. Some of you are saying, well, we've cut out field trips, but our assessment scores are doing better every year. I would strongly urge you to think about where your priorities are in terms of liberal arts education for kids. They need so much more than just being taught to do assessment really well. So I'm preaching to the choir here, I know, but just keep that as a driver when you think about the culture in your building. Balance is so important. It's okay to bring in a guest speaker on a Friday morning when he wasn't scheduled, but you had a chance to bring he or her in, and they're going to be giving a really inspirational talk to your kids. Make sure your staff know you're going to bring them in so they can have a heads up on the lesson planning for that day. But it's okay to do unpredictable things that are best for your kids and best for your overall school culture. Last question, I believe, on this slide deck. Does your school dance? I hope that your school dances. I hope that you find time for talent shows at some point during the year, bringing in a lot of rich, diverse guest speakers, as I just mentioned. Having fun when you have the kids in the gym and you're doing some type of an assembly. I hope you let your hair down some. I hope that they'll look back after they've left your school and gone to another building and say that was a fun experience at that last school. They understood the holistic part of what school can be. It certainly could be much more than folks feeling like they're going to a prison every day. Okay, I've got 3 minutes left. So we don't do commercials here at EdCamp. So do you have any questions from the group or any comments? Anything you want to add? You may have some successful succession planning strategies I didn't share. So feel free to turn on your mic or put it in the chat box.
Doc, just want to say I appreciate you. You do a good job, and I think a lot of your words and your wisdom.
Thank you, Casey. Casey, we've not talked about UK's heartbreaking fourth quarter with Clemson. I'm still not quite over it. So say
I know it.
It's
4
unbelievable.
turnovers, and we still about won the game. We should have won that game.
Yeah. You don't need to go into prevent defenses sometimes, but football coaches love to do it in the last few minutes.
Yeah, it cost us. We should have put pressure on him, but
I agree.
hopefully we live and we learn.
I see Susan Brock on here. I remember her from way back when I first started mentoring principals for KDE. And she later was an HSE at State Department. Good to see Susan. I see a lot of folks here that I have worked with. And thanks for attending this session, folks. And let me share something with you. You have one of the best in the country on school law as the keynote speaker for lunch. So if you can, stick around and listen to Wayne Young, one of the best in the country.
Well, thank you, Dr. Wallace. Wonderful, wonderful presentation. You have several things being dropped in the chat saying appreciate you. I'm not sure. You'll have to talk to Casey about whether you can do this as mentor hours. I saw him put that in the chat.
Yes, I can count that. I told my group last night I could.
So that works. Hey, and then just some really wonderful comments. But for you about appreciating what wonderful information that you have.
Thank you.
I
Okay,
am.
that was another Susan Brock. Sorry about that,
Yep.
Susan. You tell her I
Yep.
said hi when you see her. Hey, Craig, and hey, Kelly, and Michael. Thank you all. Good to see everybody.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I am going to drop in the chat, if you haven't already pulled up the feedback for the day, the evaluation to get your ELA credit, just keep it open in one of the tabs on your screen so that you can be filling in your evaluation for the EdCamp today and be able to get your ELA credit put in. But it's just one document for the full day. You're going to record all of your sessions on that one form. So if you just want to keep it up, and have that there on hand. So I've got that in there, and you all are good to go back into the main room and got a little bit of a break.
Thank you, Mary.
See you
Thank you,
guys. God
Dr.
bless.
Ross.
Hey, Kelly
Thank
Lewis.
you.
Good to see you too.